Hello, out to the woods again. You can see my blue car. So I'm on a old logging road, that one that has the grass grown up in the middle of it. But I saw this X here, in here. It's kind of a, this one's just hanging up here. That was planted this way. And I also saw some other kind of odd things. There is a white birch placed up in that tree up there. Now, it came off of right there. I don't know if I can get a better angle. But it looks like it came off of just below. Oh my God, bugs, what the hell? Looks like it came off of right there, and that's the end of it. But if it did, that little branch and that little branch would not have caught it. So I'm guessing that was planted up there. There's a white birch leaned against that tree. There's a tree right there leaned. This one's leaned up. There's another leaner right there. And as I look around, there's some very odd things right here. And a lot of things there. Like I said, there's a lot going on in this style of woods here. And it's very hard to walk through. But there's a leaner here, a leaner there, and a bunch of trees over here. I want to see if that's a blowdown. As you can see, there's like literally trees busted off and trees laying down everywhere, but they make these little patterns in the woods. And there's something I want to show you. That was placed, or what Dee calls planted, all in the same spot right there. So when you look at it from the side, see that? This place is what I call has been worked. I cannot ever find any giant trees that are placed around. But then again, there are no giant trees here anywhere around. But Dee recently said that she, since I started pointing out the small ones, but look at all of the small limbs woven into this tree from every different angle. There's here and here and back there and on that side, back on this side, way back there, and they're all woven into this one spot right here. That does not happen naturally. Some little Bigfoot. I don't know if they're learning or exactly what they're doing. And then a bigger Bigfoot made this. Small one made this. That was definitely planted there. And over there, right there, is that white birch laid over there, and then you can see underneath it there's an odd structure right there. See how that makes like a triangle? And then you got the X that goes zoink, zoink right there out towards my car. So this place has been worked. And since there are no leaves on the bottoms of these placed trees, this happened since last fall. Now you can see this one was pushed over there, or maybe was already there, but that one was placed, which makes 3, and then a smaller one was set up in there, which makes another one. And there's one just hanging right there. So that makes me think that this place was what I'll call worked. There is just so much in here, you can't blame all of this on Bigfoot. But when they do something very odd, and then you start looking around with your wood's eyes and you go, that didn't just fall there. Now I want you to look at this structure. Here are 2 trees bent over and woven into all of this other structure. See this and that and this on the side, this up here, obviously woven in. These did not fall. These did not fall right here by themselves, like in this proportions like this. In fact, this one's even big side up. So this little fairy door, or whatever the heck you call these leaners, they're making 2 leaners right here by setting other sticks on it, or for whatever reason, maybe they bedded down right here. But it doesn't look like they made a bed out of it. It looks like they on purposely leaned these 2 over and then held them down. I've pointed that out a few other times. And there's another leaner right there. There's another leaner right here. It's kind of dark today. You can hear a stream. There's a stream right down here. I can't get too far away from my car in case I block somebody else that's ramming the roads today. For the lumber companies, blue means water, and it's been raining so much that this is probably normally a dry stream bed right here, but it's not now. And I'm giving it a good look over. That one has roots, but it's been placed right here. It did not come from anywhere around right there. And it's also holding this one down to be a leaner. There's another one between those 2 trees again. And a small one right here leaned up against it. So I would have to say that next to this stream has been worked pretty well too. Trying to put my wood's eyes on as best as I can. But like I said, this is not close to town really. I'm about 15 miles down the road to a place called the Route 6 Cutoff, and I'm out between the Route 6 Cutoff and town, so I'm about 15 miles from actual town. But this area in here does get a lot of road traffic. Not where my car specifically is right now. But around here gets road traffic and ATVs a lot. There's a lot of little trees down right here. But here's another set of 3. 1, 2, 3. All set in the same spot. And it looks conveniently, because 1, 2, 3, dink, 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 look like they were snapped off from right there. And that is 10, 12, and 14 feet in the air right there. And then they were set right there. You think all 3 of them are going to break off the same way and fall into the same spot? Not very likely. So that's possibly. You can see there's a couple more snapped off right there. But things that are set in 3s stick out in the woods. So I kind of look for that. 3s and 5s. Bugs. Oh my goodness, bugs. There's enough of a stream here where if it runs during the summertime, even at a trickle, that things will grow up pretty lush around it, and that would be edible. There's a lot of thick cover in here, but not real super thick right where I'm standing. So they can come out and get sunlight if they want to. They can hide if they want to. I don't know what the hell there's something white right there. I'll be over there in a second. Looks like a tent. Okay, big tree, big tree. As you can tell, I've went out here quite a few times and did not find any leaners in this spot. This place is full of these arched trees. That's what I should be saying, arched trees, not leaners. I'm not sure exactly what that is. Something with a door in it. But I'm being relatively careful because there's an arch, right behind it is another arch, and behind that is another arch being made. You can see to the left of my car and through the trees, right up there is the white birch that has been stuck up in the tree, and then there's an X beyond that. So I'm not sure what the X's would mean. That might be to tell the young ones don't go any further than this. And here again is something that in my woods I would be saying, huh. Here is a leaner leaned up into that little crotch. And a bunch of little small ones leaned right there from different directions. Oh, man. I feel like it's the first day on my new feet because I have brand new trail boots on. What exactly do we have laying on the ground right here? An old dryer, or looks like a dryer. Nope, it has water gap in it, so it's an old washing machine. sitting in the woods. Somebody decided to scrap this a couple of decades ago. Alright. Alright, now you can see that white birch and the busted off white birch underneath it over there. The X is right there. So I'd have to say this particular little spot and the areas surrounding it, because back there a ways I came in and hit this other trail, and then I came up this way. So this area looks very promising. And I walked right by it, but let's see if I can get the phone to come in. Look at all these little, right, zing, 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 zing right there. That's a teepee made. On the other side of this tree, on the other side of that, there's like a teepee. Jing, 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 a whole bunch of them sitting up in there. They're not really big, but like I said, every 20 years they come and just clear cut everything. So this particular tree right here, you know, the size of my hand open, like that, is the normal size of the trunks around here. So nothing is that I can see is made out of trees that size. Back home they were made out of trees that probably took 5 or 6 fully grown Bigfoot to pick up and place there. But here they're making themselves known by doing smaller things, and I can only figure it out when I came in to investigate that X, and then all of a sudden I found a white birch going across, and then now I've found these kind of intricate small leaners. Back home it seems like on the edge of their places they make big structures, or maybe in the dead center, I don't know. Maybe in the dead center they make their places, but then they got things like this thing's leaned here, but it's held there by this little arch one. And it's just sitting there. And then there's another one, another little one that's just hanging there. It doesn't seem like, you know, from the other ones that you see hanging around, that looks like it's been placed there gently. And of course, with all the leaf litter and stuff on the ground, there's no way of coming up with a footprint unless you go over by the stream. Let me go down this way just a little bit more. That looks like it happened in the winter time recently, last winter, maybe this spring. Crunch, crunch, crunch. So weird things in the woods, and this time I didn't find it till a little bit later, but the weird thing in the wood is there's a washing machine, and all around it there is sign. I usually look for a very weird tree in the woods, but all the trees get cut down. So the last time they came through and cut everything down, this big tree right here did not get cut. So I'm kind of looking around it for some better sign. This looks like a little grove of trees that did not get cut recently. maybe 30 years old instead of 15 years old. This is a little bit right here. There's a stand of bigger trees. And in the bigger trees, oh, ouch. Now that one's busted off and laid at the end. But here is a nice X. And that one has roots on it, but did not come from right there. There's a leaner, a little leaner right there. And what else do we have here? Looks like they just on purposely made an X. And it looks like they hung this one in the air by putting it under this one and over that one, and hung it in the air. And there's another X behind it. We are still near the stream. This is bigger woods right here. And there's a lot going on right here. So I don't know what to blame on them and what not to, but these two right here, one over it and one under it, are just leaned here. This is upside down and leaned in that tree and just sitting there. Looks like this area has been worked over too. And I'm goofing around out here. And they could quite literally do a lot of other things that I wouldn't notice. It looks like they grabbed that right there, picked it up, bent it that way. Look at that. And then there's a couple of leaners right there. A couple of more little leaner right there. That's been worked. And I'm trying to walk over here because there's another big piece of tree stuck up in the trees here. And there is another big swoop right there that's being held down by that, which I'll have to go over and check and see if that came from anywhere. Because obviously this would have had to been leaning over quite a ways for that one to fall on the end of it, unless somebody held it down and then threw something on top of it. This came off of that and fell this way. So how did it grab this tree from over there? Unless it was already doing this. But look at that X in the sky right there. Made right over the top. Here's a post sticking up and an X in the sky. On purposely made right there and held up in the trees. That X is holding itself together by being bent around this one and then over to that tree and underneath this one and around to that tree. They're being held there by each other. So that is an on-purpose X over the top of that. That is very suspicious right there. I'd have to say that was worked. That one that's hanging that I saw fell off of that, and those trees are big enough to catch it, so. But there's another arch that is woven into the tree and held right there. Too much junk to get close to it, so I'll zoom in a little bit. Look how they wove the end of that into that tree. Kind of tied it there so that it would grow as an arch. So, yay. Especially with that right there. There is no way that this area right here with all these arches, X's, and that was on purposely made. So I definitely found a spot that they were here, and it looks like since the last fall when the leaves all fell. Otherwise, this stuff that I'm looking at would have leaves on top of it. Like, there's so many leaves on the ground, but there's no leaves covering up the little side one. Like here, this thing busted off during the winter time. But that was either already a leaner or they on purposely picked this one up and set that underneath it. Oh, there's something I didn't even see from the other angle. That tree is on that side of that one, in the crotch of that little one right there, and then way up to the top. And this one is interwoven with that tree and touching that tree and over the top of that tree. And so I have another X right there. Now I'm wanting to see things, so I got to force myself to not think that everything is done by them, but there's too much right here. There's too much right here that little tiny sticks like I found in mine. Yoink, 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 and then a bigger one. Just like in my woods back home. And those little sticks go all the way around. Like a baby was in here. Yoink, 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 and came back when he was a little older and put another one. So there's definitely either younger or smaller Bigfoot in here. And like you're thinking, oh yeah, that's natural. Well, come over here, and you see the sticks that have fallen are still all flat to the ground, and there's millions of sticks up above it. But that didn't do anything leany wise like that tree over there. That sticks out from all the other hundreds of sticks that are little tiny sticks that are leaning on stuff. Gravity has pretty much pushed them down. Oh, here's another one. Here's another constructed one. Little baby. Look at the bottom of that tree. That is completely surrounded. Look at all of that happiness. All of those little sticks stuck in there, stuck in there, stuck in there. Like, tell me that all of these little sticks fell and just came in there with this one protecting it and all that. No, these were planted there by hand. And then that stick and that stick, this one having a Y in it, and then this one placed in between all of that. All of this right here was placed by hand. There's no way you can tell me that wasn't done on purpose. Right next to the road, right next to where somebody piled all these rocks. So somebody Bigfooty is home, and I like it. This is the first absolutely positive. Oh, there's another one. And even the next tree right there. That's the one I was just showing you. And then this one right here has like a fence See how they have wove it right here to make like a place to hide behind. Like a little one was trying to make a hide so he could look out on the road, but you couldn't see him. See all this right here? Because this one's woven behind this one, but in front of that one and hitting here. This one is over here behind this one on both sides of this one. And then this other little ones are all woven in. That was on purposely made. There's no way that this one got bent around this one outside of that one by nature. So little Bigfoot attempting to make a Bigfoot hide. Normally they're not that suspiciously seeable. So when he gets bigger, or he or she, probably he, I don't know if it's just the males that hunt. I mean, they could be like lions and only the females hunt. I have no idea, but whichever one it is, when they grow up, we'll realize that less is better. And when you find a Bigfoot hide, there'll only be a few. There'll be a few limbs there to just enough to break up their outline, and no more. And unless you're really looking for them, you walk right by. I have the dogs in the car, and the sun's hitting the car, so I had to go open the windows. But this is a lot of open up in here too. Yeah, I touched the lens. Okay. This is pretty open on this side too. But this particular area right in here definitely has small to medium size Bigfoot in it, which means there's bigger ones, mamas. And where there's mamas, there's papas. I don't know if they do whole family groups, or there's no way of knowing without just making a guess. But if they're like deer and the males stay away from the females during the spring and summer and then they come back together, or if they mate for life, you can't tell unless you can investigate an actual group, and of course nobody's doing that. Dee may be getting close. She's seeing single ones at a time. But until you see a male, a female, and a baby all walking together long enough to realize that they're on purposely walking together, you can't make any good assumption about that. But that is very good sign that I found right there. Puppies are still alive, and it was sprinkling when I left the car, so I closed the windows. Come on, boys. Scooby-Doo. Come on, baby. No? You come out this side? Come on. Come on, Gooba. We're going to take a walk. Come on. Come. Okay. The scaredy one doesn't want to come out here. Another good sign. Come on, bear butt. Back in. Your brother's telling me that there's a recent sign around here by the smell of it. So we will leave them alone. Go on to the next spot. Perfect. I love it. Okay, bye. There you are. Can you see yourself in there? Of course not. All right. I'm a couple 100 yards, maybe even a quarter mile, up above where I just was. Not to the top of the hill yet. I looked out through the trees here, and there is a cliff with what looks like caves in it. You can see in this woods that even though it's not nighttime, I'm being very cautious because there are mountain lions, bears, moose, bobcats, and such. Which means you're going to have slightly more aggressive Bigfoot and dogmen because they have competition for food. And they also have babies that they have to defend. Unlike where in New York where I'm from, they would not have to defend their children from anything except for humans. I'm looking around pretty good because, you know, cats like to be up high. It doesn't look like there's any very deep caves in this mess. What I was seeing from the road, mostly shadow, but I want to be up there. Oh my goodness, I'm getting so old. I am. I'm not as old as Dee. At least not in body yet. Actual age, I'm 20 years older than her. Oh my. Oh my. Oh me, oh my. Okay. So, what looked like it might have been a little bit deeper of a cave is dark green moss. Right there. So there's no deep cave there. But I guess if you had to get out of some torrential rain, or if you wanted to dig into the snow and have something solid over the top of you, you could do it right there. I don't see. Ooh, right there. See this? Something with I'm going to say a mountain lion with a very big paw, that the paw slid down and then pushed. See where it pushed all this right there? Yoink. It's a little scary. And it doesn't smell completely like leaves and trees up here. I am smelling animal fur. At the moment, right here, I don't see anything really that can't be explained away as being natural. You would think that they would want to claim this space here as theirs. I don't know what bears smell like. I know what cats smell like, obviously, but I don't know what bears smell like. And I don't see any hole big enough to be a bear den right here. It's the moss. It's the moss I'm smelling because I got it on my hands now. Okay, hold on. La 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 la. Over here, right next to the road. I can see something made from 3 trees. 1, 2, 3. And they're all, that one's up through there, that one's over the top of that one. That one is over the top of that one over there. I can get to where I can get some perspective. These did not fall from above. Okay. 1, 2, 3. 3 things that you can see from the road easily again. Back behind me, there's some big tree down. So difficult terrain, man. All these branches on the ground, ferns, rocks sticking up out of the ground. It's very hard to walk. But if I can get down below this a little bit and look back more from the perspective of the road, you can see those 3 were set there on purpose. And it's making, oh Jesus, branch to the face. It's making that classic A. See that? Don't know what that symbol means. Over there from the road, that would be an X from the road. And that kind of looks like it was placed in there like that on purpose. Doesn't surprise me much. I'm not very far away from the last place I was. Let me see if I can get back to the road. Yeah, that's an on purposely made X. And I think that the X is not for us. It's probably for teaching their children don't go any further than this because there's humans or some type of danger, so that when the babies are small enough to roam around on their own, that this is how big your area is. Don't go past this, or we're not going to come and save you. There's some such thing. God only knows how good parents they are. I don't know. Something's making me whisper. Whoop! Yoo-hoo! My left hand that I've been touching the trees with has a weird smell to it. I'm going to blame it on the moss. Kind of have to. Anyway, you can kind of see back in there that where I was in that cliff. And it's not my imagination that, yet again, as a bunch of small sticks leaned in both directions into the bottom of a V tree. And that in and of itself could be done by adult Bigfoot. This may not be a nursery, it may be done by adult Bigfoot for a reason. So I'm adding my own thought process to something that might be completely and utterly wrong. All right. And if there's Bigfoot, there would have to be poop around, right? probably 6 or 7 inches long. There's 2 of them. Could be a big coyote, wolf. There's definitely hair in that. All right. Just to prove a point that there are big carnivores out here. And there's also beautiful friggin' rocks. I'm a rock hound. I'm sorry, but that interests me just as much as Bigfoot does. Anyway, I'm still seeing sign, and on to the next. I just thought I would show you what I'm driving down here. This is an old logging road. The ones that have been used for years or recently abandoned ones are all, of course, stone and completely flat. And some of these weeds are as tall as the hood of my Jeep here. And as is typical for around, there are little turnarounds. As you can see, this is the normal Upper Maine woods. If it's getting any kind of sunlight, you can't walk in there. Now I'm giving you basically the view, a little over 3 power, the same view that my eyes are getting. But if you want to see further wide, anything like this little pathway has to be considered moose. But there's a turnaround there. You can see that was an old cut. Wherever there's a turnaround, there used to be a staging area for logs. And I'm starting to be able to see into the woods a little bit here. But you can see most of these trees are between 4 and 6 inches around. So this was a cut quite a while ago. 8, 10 years, 12 years ago. Here's some bigger ones. If I can stay on the road. See out in front of me, right there. I'm gonna have to get out and move a tree. I've had to move several of these. If the Bigfoot wanted to keep me out, they put a big log or something in front of it, so I couldn't just by hand move it. But there you go. And right there, you can see that right there, how a bunch of those limbs are busted. That's a male moose just walking through, being mean to the small trees with his horns, antlers, or whatever the hell moose have. But oh, that's me. Look at me. Oh, there's a view out in there. I'm on the other side of the mountain, about a mile or so away from that cliff where I was last time. And obviously I can't see very far into the trees, but I have not seen anything spectacular enough for me to get out of the car and look at it. So I just wanted you to see the type of road I was driving down for probably a mile and a half now. Out in the middle of nowhere. Alright, bye. Alright. This is about an hour and a half later than when I was at the cliff. I went way out to the end of that logging road, and I'm on my way back. This is the other side of the road. The cliff is at the top of the hill up there. The first sign I found is at the bottom of the hill down here. This is on the other side of the road. And it just so happened that right there where my car is, can see, oh God, yoink, that structure set under that tree just right there and up. I'm going to go out here and check this out. Since this is in between the two things I found on the other side of the road. Now, that tree is broken off and just fell up there. Let's see what's going on with this side of this tree here. Alright, that was broken off at the ground, so debunked. That just happened to be up there like that. This one's been broken for a very long time and up there, and that one's recently broken and fell into it. Could have happened. But there is just a lot of things in here. They're just leaners leaned against trees that are underneath the branches of other trees. It just doesn't seem like it should be able to get to where it is. And there, this part of the woods has a lot of these bent trees. And I'm just seeing a lot of stuff out here that's more familiar. Nothing. I thought maybe I found a big structure, and maybe I did if they broke that off right there. But I also found get over here. This is either a very old laneway. Alright, that's pretty sturdy. That's not going to fall out of there. See, I'm just kind of finding these long leaners. This one here. And something. 1, 2, 3. Recently pooped out here. I had very runny poop. No way of telling what that was. You see these? And just trapped between those two, and then right underneath it, another one. It just doesn't seem, there's too much familiar about my woods. Too many familiar things in here then. Like right there. All of those little interwoven sticks between those two trees. Too much to be coincidence. But I'm walking down a nice path right here. And I'm pretty sure this is an old road. or a drag laneway where they dragged the trees when they did this cut. This is a old logging road. It's a drag laneway where they drag the trees down there to put them near the road. But there's usually a pretty good path right up the middle of these. I don't get too far away from my car, because the people riding four-wheelers and the deer and moose and stuff like to walk up these. You can see that this is an old logging road. It goes way down there. It's double tracks. But in this particular spot, this little area where I first found it, and then up from it and all the way up to that cliff, I seem to be seeing very familiar patterns. Of leaned trees and small lean sticks and stuff out here in the woods. Back in here where I came out. Do. But as you can see, there is absolutely, that's what I saw, was that big arch right there. But once I come in here, I'm seeing some very familiar things that looks like, you know, bored Bigfoot would just come and do things like this. It probably broke off from up there. I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna set it right here on the shelf here. Back off so you can see what's going on. It's just down there and bust it off, but just this little board, I'm just gonna set it up there. Leaners. Ones that are arches with things on top of them. Just like something young and bored came in here and just decided, I'm gonna lean this on this tree and lean that on that tree. Some of it I have to completely write off because it obviously just fell over, or you can see where it fell from. But that one over there, making that big arch, is busted from right there, but left enough to hold it. And this one right here is busted off, left enough to hold it, and leaned into that tree. But if they busted it, that's 20 feet in the air right there. And going in the opposite direction of the other one. This time of the year, there's plenty of mushrooms for them to eat. Because, like I've said in my other videos, here's one that's planted and leaned up there and very old. Dead thing. And there's, nothing but living live shit up above it. So that's been placed there, it looks like. Got a big outcropping of rock. More mushrooms. It's just to show you that they can walk through the woods and eat mushrooms however they want. But there's a stick leaned across the top of that stump right there, conveniently. Right in the open. And God only knows what my eyes are missing, things that they do to tell each other things, and I'm probably missing more than half of it. But I'm seeing some very familiar signs that they take an old leaning one and then go, you know, snap and just lean that one up to it to show they're around. And there's another big snapped one over there that I showed you. Leaners. And it's not like every single tree out here has small ones leaned to ground. And it's not like that. It's just all of a sudden there's a ton of small ones leaned up conspicuously against something. But I am seeing just that sign of intelligence when I look out in here. I just kind of see that and feel it. That something went through here and placed things. You can just feel it when you get Wood's eyes. All right. So there's a little more sign. Back to my car. And like I said, the down there in the flats is where I found the first sign next to that old washing machine. And up the hill here is where I found that cliff with a little more sign in it. And I'm sure I would find sign if I decided to walk out in here too. But I'm starting to get hungry. And time to get out of here. See, I now have Maine license plates instead of New York license plates. Yay! But here we are, and I'm really happy that I'm finding a little bit of, see a couple leaners over there, but I don't see anything that looks like an X or triples on that side. I'm sure I would if I went out in there. I would find something because it's all up through here. All right, have fun, have a day. I'm gonna go smash these videos together and see if I can't interest a few more subscribers into believing, because you only got to believe just a tad bit. All you have to have is that shadow of a doubt that, hey, if I went out into my woods and started looking for stuff that was conspicuous, would I find it? And those are the people that I really want to get to and try to entice them. Just certain things, like right there, get a little bigger, things that make you go home. Right, where's my finger? Right there. See that? Right there, it's hooked in that V. And it does not make, it does make it down to the ground, but it's in that V. But that is a old piece of white birch. There are no white birches within at least 50 feet of that. It took me a second to look around and try to look at it, but you can see the end of it right there. The other end of it's touching the ground right there, but I'll pan very slowly. There are no white birches, dead or alive, within 50 feet of that. So where did that white birch come from? Something placed that up there on purpose so that it was completely visible from this road. cool. Now, if you want to find out, there's a white birch here. The nearest white birches are on the other side of the road, over there, a good 100 feet from where that is. So tell me where that came from. And that's how I want to teach people to look for things that just are not, they're just not quite natural. Because to look out in here and everything, it kind of looks natural. You're just seeing trees and lean trees and fallen trees and dead trees and live trees and a lot of stuff. But when you start looking for things that don't look natural, you'll go like this and you'll look around, you look around, you look around, you look around, and then bam, there's a piece, an upside down piece of white birch hanging in a tree with no white birches that it could possibly have fell from. That's what I want you to look for. And once you get in there, you'll start seeing things that humans did because it doesn't look natural. You'll start seeing, if you get into a spot where there's Bigfoot, you'll start seeing things that look like something intelligent placed that there because it just isn't natural, not enough to be just it fell there. I know I keep saying the same things over and over, but it excites me. All right, so now this time you just all have a very nice day, and I'm going to go eat some dinner. Bye.